Tech Sideline is presented by First Bank and Trust Company, the bank that puts you first. They can meet your banking and financing needs for personal, agricultural, business, commercial, mortgages, and so much more. Visit firstbank.com to learn more. Ladies and gentlemen, the decade-long wait is finally over. In just a month, EA Sports College Football 25 releases, and on episode 363 of the Tech Sideline podcast, we're here to talk all about it. We got the football crew minus Chris because he's too cool for video games, and we're going to unpack it all. It's episode 363 of the Tech Sideline podcast, and it starts right now. We record on Thursday, June 20th, 2024 from our high-tech Virginia Tech Corporate Research Center studio. Remember to like, subscribe, and refer the show to a friend, and head over to techsideline.com. Check out our extensive editorial content. As always, the first month of your subscription is free. Tech Sideline is presented by First Bank and Trust Company, and this episode is also presented by the Master of Agricultural and Applied Economics degree at Virginia Tech. The Department of Agriculture and Applied Economics at Virginia Tech is a premier, world-class department ranked globally in the top 10%. Visit online-ms.aaec.vt.edu today to learn how you can accelerate your career with our 100% online Masters of Agricultural and Applied Economics degree. I'm your host, Giovanni Heater, joined alongside David Cunningham, Tech Sideline's managing editor, and across the way, Andy Bitter, of course, our senior staff writer. The mustache man, Nick Brown, is producing behind the scenes. Fellas, number one, feels like it's been quite some time, so it's good to be up here with you. Number two, we have to disclaimer for everybody. We're really not talking tech sports. Kind of, we are, but it's the middle of the summer. It's that lull, not a lot going on, and we're just a couple of nerds ready to talk about a video game.
If you don't like video games, this is not the podcast for you. Just skip this one. Don't go on and complain, oh, you guys didn't talk. No, we're telling you up front, we're just talking about the video game. So, very niche podcast this week.
Not a whole lot going on. I mean, there's some recruiting stuff here and there for basketball, football, but it's a quiet time. We're getting ready to go on. I know some of us are getting ready to go on vacation soon. I am. Andy is. We wanted to get this podcast in, and there's a reason why Chris Coleman's not on the set, because he's the evil
a big
man.
boy.
Yeah, he's the man yelling at clouds.
We didn't need the
video
Grinch
games
on this podcast.
Yeah,
taking it down.
But I'm stoked. This all things college football video game. We've waited so long for this.
The wait is finally over. The last game that was released was NCAA 14. Many of us are still playing that to this day. And then I want to take you guys back. I want to say it was 2019. All of a sudden, just on Twitter one day, EA Sports just drops, it will come back in some capacity, right? Well, that was what, 5 years ago at this point, and we've waited, and there was times where we were like, will it come? But with NIL being present in college football and across the landscape of collegiate athletics, it makes this game that much more possible. Want to take everybody back to that in 2019, I believe it was. Like, what was your reaction to that, David?
Honestly, kind of just I think it was kind of unbelievable because we spent so much time without the game, and crazy. I remember what you're talking about, and we're sitting here in 2024, and we're finally getting it, and it's been a really long wait. I think this video game, I mean, I grew up with it. I know you did as well, and it just means so much to so many people. And to think back to that, when you see that the college football is going to be back at some point, it's kind of like gives you some goosebumps, little tingles. It's exciting to have it back, and I think it's going to be one of the most talked about things all summer.
Well, it was so dumb that it went away in the first place. they're like, oh, well, you got to compensate the players. Like, if you gave them a free copy of the game, I bet you all of them would have signed off for all those years on it. So I'm glad they got past all the red ink and all the legal stuff that they had to do to bring it back.
To show everybody how into this we are. Now, David, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe all three of us had to buy the next-gen consoles just so we could play this game. Like, that's how locked in we are. You guys went the PS5 route.
It's a little more acceptable for you guys in your 20s.
Yeah, I bought it on my birthday, so
Birthday gift.
Good birthday gift, yes.
Sure.
Father's Day gift to myself. Like, I'm in my mid-40s and I have a child, and I bought a PlayStation 5 specifically to play this game. It's pathetic, but I do not apologize for it.
No, as you shouldn't, no doubt about it. Well, what are you most excited about? What makes this game so special over the years that you can't wait to get in there? I think it starts with Dynasty mode, I think, is everybody's favorite off the bat.
Oh, absolutely. That's the only reason that I like playing. I never played online or anything like that against other people. I don't even know, did it have that capability back then? I assume it did.
I think the last couple did, yeah.
I think 12, 13,
so I never really worried
did.
about that. And the fun of this game is taking like some no-name, down on its luck school and building it into a superpower. And then you see what kind of other jobs come along. But the recruiting was really fun to the point where the game was fun too, but it was almost kind of incidental to doing all the off-field, the recruiting stuff over and over and building up this program. I think that's what everybody loves to do about this game.
Yeah, I think there were so many things that made it so unique. The custom conferences. Remember, the last game that dropped had the BCS in it.
Yeah.
Which is going to be a big change. But you could do custom conferences. You could kind of go off script and kind of make your dynasty how you wanted it. I've listened to many, for those of you who know, the Shutdown Fullcast, and they've talked about random ways to organize conferences.
Well, I remember the last game that I had, I was at Texas A&M, and I must have been visionary because I expanded the Big 12 to like 16 teams, and I split them into a country division and a Western division. So country and Western, the two types of music. No, I put in like Boise State and all these other schools that to bump it up, and it actually, I know Boise State's not the Big 12, but it's actually 16 team conference now. That I was a forerunner to the huge mega conferences that were coming in the day. So I was a visionary even back then.
Yeah, I think the custom conferences was always fun, but you felt like college football is so special because of the environments, because of the players. I think it's going to be so weird. I think that like real life player names are now going to be in the game. I mean, I spent hours when I was younger going through and like inputting roster names.
Oh yeah,
for players I knew, and then eventually you get to like year 4 and it's a bunch of names, and you're making up storylines for all these guys.
See, that's why I never worried about putting in the names myself. Like those guys are going to cycle out as I did the Dynasty mode anyway. So when I'm in year 5 and my receiver at Vanderbilt, Seth Moody, is winning the Heisman, like, I like those names that popped up randomly on the whole thing.
Did you guys ever do that thing where you could actually download the more current rosters? Like I totally on NCAA 14 every year. Then it got to a point where I bought a flash drive on eBay, a sketchy flash drive, jailbroke the PlayStation to get the college football revamped. But you could get the new uniforms and everything. But I, at least back in the day, like when Eric Dungy was playing and Tech had some great players as well, I would download the most current rosters and kind of start from there.
No, I never did that.
Okay.
But I think one of the most enjoyable things is like unlike games like Madden, like college football, there's going to be a new wave of players every year. I think the recruiting part, it was so easy, but it was so fun. And you could put so much time into it, getting the best players. You could, if you really wanted to, you could destroy a program by just like cutting everybody and then leaving. Like you could, there was so much imagination that could go into it. Yes, it is. Yes.
Well, I never did that.
I love building up the rosters and then you're like, I'm sorry, I've got a 5th-year 95 wide receiver, but this freshman is a 94 and he's going to surpass you. So I've got to cut you 95 receiver. Like you get the rosters so that you just had this incredible wave of players. That even great ones, you're like, we had to have a hard conversation with that guy to cut him from the program.
But the storylines, I mean, even just like getting into the games, like playing the game was always fun. You compare it to Madden. Madden, it's not. The NFL is, they run more pro style offenses, right?
Right.
College football is all over the place. You got the air raid, you got the triple option. I mean, you can run the flex bone or wishbone at Army and Navy.
The NFL is pretty homogenous. Like everything is the same playbook, and you can't.
College football is fun because I believe there are going to be 134 different playbooks in this upcoming game. That's ridiculous. Like, and you can customize your playbooks and.
As long as the jet sweeps in there, I'm fine. That's all I need to run over and over.
You know what I've been playing?
Short side of the field.
So when I got the next gen console, which was like a month ago, literally in preparation for this game, I took a video game break for a while just because didn't have the time. And once in a while, if I was going to play a video game, it was going to be NCAA 14, weirdly enough, on the old consoles on PS3. And lately, the new Madden, I've been playing with the RPOs. There's actually a lot of fun stuff, and they're saying in the articles and whatnot that this college football game goes nuts with the RPOs and the different stuff you can do. So definitely going to be something to check out.
That's my worry, is that it's a whole new generation of like controls that you have to learn. My daughter has a Nintendo Switch, so I bought some sports games on that. I'm like, there's so many buttons you have to press. Like the NBA thing, you're like learning combo moves and stuff. It's like, in my day, there were 2 buttons, and that's all you had to do to press them to make the sports games go. Now there's all this complicated stuff. So I know we're going to try to fire up a league or something like that within the TSL offices here. I got to get on my game and learn how to play this newer generation version of
I'm
this
worried
stuff.
of the guy that's hiding behind the scenes right now, Nick. You can't see him. He's bridging. I'm worried about Nick, how good he's going to be. There are so many of our other friends.
He's a big Madden guy, too.
Yes. But it's going to be so fun, I think, because like this is a game that everybody enjoyed, because I think what makes college football so unique is like everybody has a favorite team, right? Like
a lot of us have the same favorite team, but not all of us.
Yeah, I mean,
we all go to school here.
I'm sure you played a lot of games with Wisconsin.
I actually didn't.
Really?
I like varying it up. I think my dynasties was like Vanderbilt, Texas A&M. I think I started at Wyoming one year, just like to build up this nothing program.
Tulane, Idaho.
I always made fun
Hawaii.
of my dad because he would do his dynasty mode with Alabama. I'm like, what is the point in that, dog?
Yeah, there's no challenge to that.
But yeah, I think one of the most enjoyable things was you could build up a program, and you could take a 1-star school that had never done anything before, and like in a couple years, you were like on your way to a national championship, and you had promised all these guys like, oh yeah, man, we're going to win the conference. We're going to beat our rivals. We're going to we're going to go win a national championship. And then you do it, and then you're like, time to go to the next job and time to rebuild up another program.
That's the most fun thing. I started this past one with the revamped or whatever I started as the offensive coordinator at JMU. And I thought that was like the perfect lifting spot. And then now we're the head coach at Oklahoma, I think, is where we wound up.
Certainly moved up the ranks quickly.
It took, but there was steps. We were at like North Carolina for some time.
It's tough to look in the eyes of those digital players and tell them that you're moving on to another job. But this is the life. This is the business we've chosen.
What is the expectations here? To me, first of all, I don't think there's anything that they could do that would be a disappointment at this point. We've seen the trailer. It looks like it's exceeded every expectation you could possibly have. But I'm under the belief that with the team that put this game together, and there's all these people that say, oh, it's just going to be Madden, but college football. Whatever it is, I'm under the belief that maybe I'm naive. I think they knocked it out of the park. It looks spectacular what they've shown us thus far.
Well, they're not going into it with a lack of care. Like, they took this very seriously. And
right.
The people who have played it says it's not like Madden. It's not just a reskin of that game. So I like the fact that it's unique to college football because it is a different sport, and there are different playbooks, different sensibilities about the whole thing in college athletics. So I think the people that were doing this put a lot of effort into making sure this was going to be a playable game, and then one that felt different from previous versions.
I think that is the biggest thing. Like, I believe that it is going to be a good game because the people who people like Chris Vanini and Matt Brown that have been behind the scenes and got to go to that thing in Orlando, a month ago and interview people from EA. Everybody from EA, like they just can't stop talking about the passion and how much people put into this game. And I think that's the most exciting part, because this is a game for everyone. Like I said, and I think this was a quote from something Matt Brown wrote, where somebody at EA said, everybody has a favorite team, right? It might be Akron. Somebody wants to play with Akron. And or Arkansas State, right? They have the fountain, that interesting fountain in the game that's actually in their stadium. It's actually going to be in the new game, right? There are unique things that make every school special to somebody. And I think understanding or knowing that the people who put it together understand that and took great care with the game. It's not like they were just slapping stuff together and saying, yeah, we'll throw out a video game, we'll make some money off of it. It's no, they wanted this to be special. That's why I feel so strongly about it.
Let's tie this thing back to Virginia Tech a little bit. First and foremost, I think playing as Tech is going to be awesome. We know that Enter Sandman will not be in the game, but I'm under the expectation, I guess, and what has been said on tape, because Matt Brown, who's a big coverer of this game in the media, went in, wanted to play as Virginia Tech off the bat, was disappointed the song's not in the game.
I think that was Chris Vanini.
Was it Chris Vanini?
Yes.
Okay. But disappointed that the song wasn't in the game, but everything else is, right? And I think you're still going to see the whole Let's Go Hokies, the slap into the stone, and they put a generic heavy metal song. I still think Enter Sandman's going to be hype, but a lot of people on TikTok and whatnot, I keep saying top 10 teams to rebuild with. Everybody wants to, non-Hokies, want to rebuild and bring Virginia Tech back to the promised land.
That's not a big enough rebuild challenge, though.
I agree.
I mean, that's a mid-tier promising team coming into the season. I don't feel like you're when you want to rebuild, you're give me Akron.
Yeah.
Hate to keep dumping on Akron. I actually don't even know how Akron did last season. Were they terrible last season?
Or if you want it to be a Power 5
Toledo
school.
You go to the MAC or the Sun Belt.
Go to Vanderbilt if you're going to rebuild a Power 5 school, or Virginia, for instance, just to throw some red meat to our listeners on this podcast. Go to a place that's a real challenge. But I think the fun is going out to just a nothing group of 5 school that, they rate them 1-star, 2-star, whatever programs, to build that up into actually being could they steal a playoff bid or something like that? That would
with
be cool.
The 12 teams?
That would be cool in this game, to take a team North Texas or something like that. That North Texas was the cheat code in the previous one, because you could get all the Texas recruits and you can just turn them into a power like that. But there's a lot of team, like a MAC team or something like that, that you could take and turn them into a power. That would be pretty fun. That'd be more fun than being what's Virginia Tech team
New
rating?
Mexico.
What's Virginia Tech's team rating gonna be? An 85 or something like that?
Yeah.
Somewhere in there, somewhere in the 80s. No, take a team in the 70s, or maybe even lower than that, and see what you can do with them.
I think it will be exciting to play with Virginia Tech, though. And I think there are a lot of people who grew up playing the game, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, I think, but when the games came out, Virginia Tech was kind of at its peak. And so there are a lot of people who grew up playing these games where Virginia Tech was a top 25 team every year.
Yeah.
So
I think the tail end, whenever I fire it up, it's Virginia Tech ranked to start the season.
Yeah.
This is weird.
I mean,
this has been a while.
And they're always featured in the montages and whatnot.
Yeah, so I think this will be unique for a lot of people who played it a lot during that era when Virginia Tech was really good. I think some people might want to build Virginia Tech back up and kind of do what Brent Pry's doing a little bit and get Virginia Tech back to winning an ACC championship, right? Tech hasn't won one since 2010. So you think, that would have been the 2009 game. Virginia Tech, is on the come up, obviously, as a program, and still has a lot of work to do this season. But I think people really enjoy playing with it because it's a program that everybody, most people around the country who turned on their TV on Saturdays in the 2000s and early 2010s, you knew who Virginia Tech was. And now you're going to get a chance to, after so long, potentially play with them again. And I think Enter Sandman, like, even though it's not in the game, the entrance and stuff, I think
It'll be sick.
that'll
Well,
draw people
Kyron
too.
would be a fun quarterback to play
That
with.
too.
Yes, I think the dynamicness of because that's English, but the Tech offense will play fun. Like, right, this isn't Rutgers where they're going to run the ball all the time. Like, no, you have elite receivers and you have the interesting playbook. I'm sure. Like, I think Tech could be a very fun team to play with. Let's go ahead and give Nick some love because he whipped up a super cool graphic. We went through and texted Nick. We don't know each other's scores, so to speak, here, but we rated what we think is going to be Virginia Tech's top players in the video game. Andy, I'll start with you.
Let's see if I can remember them.
Okay.
If they're going to show the graphic on this thing. I think I had Dorian, Kyron, and APR is my top 3.
That's correct.
And they asked for ratings too, and I'm kind of like out of date on what the rating should be. So I think I had 91, 89, 88 or something like that. That might be lowballing. I think Dorian could potentially be higher than that. But
Okay.
I think those are the 3 best players on the team.
Yeah.
Maybe Peebles could get in there. I think he's a really interesting one on defense. Mansour maybe defensively. But I'm thinking of the guys who have had accolades in the past or, really produced. I think those are probably my top 3.
What you got, David?
I had APR, Antelope Power Island, 92. I had Dorian Strong as a 90, and I had Bashal Tootin as a 90. I think
Tootin, he's a good one.
And I think Tootin's going to be a really good kick returner in the game.
True, because they're going to look
I
at
think
touchdowns.
Tucker,
yeah.
I mean, Tucker Holloway and Jalen Lane probably will be pretty good punt returners. No, I think Peebles is one of the other guys where I was like, man, he could kind of sneak in there. He's an all ACC guy. I'm very interested to see where Drones falls in. I think he'll probably fall in around the 88, 89 range.
One thing I just thought of that would be electric. I don't know if they're going to put coaches in the game, but imagine the aura of Brent Pry in the video game.
I think the coaches are not in the game.
In the game. Okay,
Because Lane Kiffin has said, like, I want to be in the game. Like, put me on there.
Really?
So you're going to get a generic coach.
Okay, it makes sense. There's just so many.
What were your 3?
Okay, so here's my 3. And now after seeing yours, I feel that I have lowballed us a little bit here, but I did back mine with a slight bit of research. Now, these were projected rankings, of course, so this was nothing official, but on some different sites that of people that, whether they're having fun or know what they're talking about, the projections of some of the top players in college football weren't crazy high, right? It was almost as if you could, like, still have it where your top guys were 95s-ish, is like, because they're not like NFL caliber players yet, right? So like Quinn Ewers, who's on the cover, was like a 94 as projected, and like Donovan Edwards, who's on the cover, was like a 96, and Travis Hunter was like a 92. I mean, those are the cover athletes. You got to think those are going to be like some of the top guys. So kind of backing off of that research, I almost feel like I lowballed Tech a little bit. I got Kyron Drones, the highest rated player, at 86. I think Tech fans understand how good some of these guys are, but the people, they're doing their research, but the people that are putting this game together are looking at big headlines, things like that. And Kyron Drones is the face of Virginia Tech football right now. I got Antoine Powell-Ryland coming in second with an 84 overall, and then Bashal Tootin with an 82. Now, comparing it to your guys, I feel as though I've lowballed, but we'll see how it shakes out.
You are hating on these Hokies. My goodness.
Let me read Nick's real quick.
I saw APR said 95 or bust with his rating.
Nick put his together. Nick had Dorian Strong first, like Andy, at a 90. Then he had John Love, the kicker, with a 90, second overall. And Nick was actually, we were in the office yesterday, and Nick was looking at John Love's PFF grades and stuff, and he was like the 11th or 12th highest rated kicker in the country last year.
He had a good year.
I think Peter Moore is somebody who's going to be pretty highly rated too.
Sure.
And then Nick had Anton Powell-Ryland third at 88. So I went back and I looked at, we were talking about this earlier, I went back and looked back to NCAA 08. I went and looked at all of the top 3 Virginia Tech players, and I kind of got a sense of that, Gio. Mm-hmm. And then that's kind of how I based my top 3 in terms of rating. Because a lot of times, in NCAA 08, Tech's 2 top rated players were 96 overall. They were Xavier Deeby and Vince Hall. next 2 years.
Whenever we do the season, it's whatever the year is, it's the previous season, which is weird. I don't know why they do it.
The next 2 years were the top player was 95 overall, and then the next 3 were either 90. The next 4 were either 92 or 93.
Who was the highest ranked Virginia Tech player in that time?
It would have been a DB or Hall. I mean, going back to...
It's interesting that Tyrod did not get ranked
Tyrod
higher.
was a...
Even after his senior year, when they do it the next year's game,
Yeah,
you
he
figured
was
that would have been the highest
92.
player. Interesting.
That was an NCAA 11, so going off the 2010 game or rosters, he was a 92. Darren Evans was a 92, and Ryan Williams was a 93.
Okay. Based on that, I'd probably lower my rankings
Slightly.
couple spots, just because I don't think they're going to have Virginia Tech that high in the game overall.
Yeah, I just think that the other thing too is that if they do it like Madden, they'll move as the season goes along. Like Kyron could, if he ends up breaking out as the best quarterback in the ACC, you could see him bumped up.
I don't know. They got these fatigue things in
True.
the game where if you get hit a certain number of times or in the same spot over and over, that it could be problematic to your player's rating.
I'm hyped with this stadium pulse meter, right? They brought it back from like NCAA 06, but it's actually going to make things. First of all, you're going to get your generic screen shake, but it's also going to do stuff where like when you try and hot route, it like won't do it, but it'll tell you it did it.
Hot what?
Hot route, whatever.
Hot route, yes.
Whatever.
Well, they had that in the 2014 game when you were like a freshman or something as a quarterback, and you're like
Squiggly lines.
and you go back and it's like doesn't know where it's supposed to go.
Right.
But this one looks like they have some freshman receiver like just run circles around in the field or something like that. It's like, okay, I don't think he's that confused.
They're going to have stuff where like if you hot route, in your head, he's going to go do that hot route, but
he'll
then
do a different route.
He'll do a different route. The communication wasn't there. And I'm like,
That's
they know what
exciting.
they're doing.
And that's based on like, experience and talent level and stuff like that. So you can't really have like an inexperienced roster when you go on the road like that. I like that.
I love that.
It feels very specific to college
Because
football.
going on the road in college football is probably the most difficult, one of the most difficult things in sports to do. Like that's not, of course, road games in the NFL at some places are definitely daunting, but not like college football.
Yeah, I think that noise meter. I mean, people are going to love playing Lane Stadium probably just because of the crowd, the atmosphere. I think those type of atmospheres, the uniqueness, the noise, the different noises they put in the game, the different everybody submitted. Sheets of music and stuff. Right?
Yeah.
Like there's so much detail that's going to go into the game.
You can
at each
stripe out
stadium.
stadiums.
That's going to, I mean, it's going to be so awesome.
It's gonna be electric. I can't wait. What player do you think you missed out on? Both, I'm gonna say Tech and generally, you missed out playing with the most. I would say my player for Virginia Tech players, the one that I would have loved to play with would probably be. I think it would have been fun to like rebuild with Josh Jackson. Would have been cool. Like never gets hurt, never transfers. Like that would have been a cool freshman star quarterback. That would have been fun. Player that I would have loved to would have been Eric Dungy, probably my favorite football player ever. But like the biggest like headlining player that I think we all missed out on playing with, like because you could say Burrow, you could say Kyler Murray. I think playing with Lamar Jackson.
Lamar Jackson.
Would have been
It's
so
always the
awesome.
quarterback, and it's always the most dynamic quarterback. You want somebody who can move. Like Burrow is like, oh my gosh, look at his accuracy on downfield throws. Like that's not why you play the game. You want a guy that can run around and dodge tackles. And Lamar Jackson is the epitome of that.
Right.
I mean, you remember him leaping the Syracuse defender at the goal line.
I was there.
That's what you want to do with your video game character. I remember back in the day when I had a Madden 2002 or whatever it was. I'm like, I'm going to play as Michael Vick with Atlanta. Like that's the fun part of the game.
It literally would have been playing like, it would have been like the equivalent of as close as you could get to playing with Michael Vick.
Yeah.
And in this generation of NCAA football, playing with Lamar.
That's why I think the Tech player that you missed out the most on in those years is probably Gerard Evans. Like imagine what he would have been like in the game. That would have been very similar.
I think Hendon Hooker probably would have been fun to play with too.
Yeah, a little bit.
I actually wrote a couple names down.
Yeah.
I think Tremaine Edmonds would have been super fun to play with.
He could cover a lot of ground.
Dude, he would have hit some guys really, really hard. The Tech's trio of receivers in 2016 in Cam Phillips, Isaiah Ford, and Bucky Hodges. I mean, that would have been a pretty good wide receiver group. And as far as the running back goes, I think Khalil Herbert.
That's what I was going to say.
Khalil Herbert would have been. I mean, I think people just forget about him a little bit because it was that 2020 year where wasn't a whole lot. I mean, it was COVID, but like he was a really good back, and now he's playing in the NFL.
Yeah, still playing in the NFL as a running back. Like that's not an easy thing to do. Some guys will fizzle out after a couple of years. Some guys won't make a full roster. Like, no, he's scoring touchdowns on Sundays. And it's what, 3 years removed from college at this point. So no doubt. All right, let's start to put a ribbon on this thing, fellas. NIL, this is going to be a part of it. Dynasty, everything. I mean, we're hyped. We're hyped. This is going to be all. We're going to have to bring in a console and play on the set. And let everybody see.
That is a thing now. Like people watching videos of other people playing
Streamers,
video games.
yes.
That seems weird to me. I think I miss that whole thing. I would just rather play the game myself than watch other people play. But I'm hyped for this league that we're going to have within Tech Sideline. Do we know the format of how we're doing
Well,
that?
the problem is not everyone has the same console. Right, so are we able to?
How many Xboxers are there among them?
I'm an Xboxer.
I thought you bought a PS5.
No, I bought an Xbox. It was significantly cheaper than the PS5.
Well, then that's your
Oh
problem.
man,
Yeah.
you just
So
lost out.
you three are
Yes.
PlayStation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Raza, me, and Jack are Xbox.
No, I think
Oh,
Jack's going to
man.
buy a PS5.
Jack's gonna buy a PS5.
Well, here's the thing: you can just go play on his when you have matchups you have to play, right?
There you go. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll
figure it out.
It's gonna
I
be-
thought it was pretty even split, but if Jack's buying a PS5, that throws everything out the window.
Yeah,
Figure it out.
yeah. You got to come up to our level, I think, on this thing.
Yeah, all right, that sounds good. Regardless, we're gonna have a whole lot of fun, guys. Your final thoughts?
I think. This is just. It's so fun because I spent so much time playing it. You know, even like when I got to college, like I just like. I'm in my apartment in like 2019 sitting there playing NCAA 13. Like it's just nice, enjoyable, relaxing. I wish they would bring back some of the soundtracks. But it's an enjoyable game. Very, very fun. You don't really get tired of it because there's always something new to do. We didn't even talk about Road to Glory, and I'm disappointed that there are not going to be any high schools in it. But if that's
I was never the biggest road. I was more Dynasty.
Road to Glory was always fun because you could just be a star quarterback and you only played as the quarterback. But
Yeah, I broke it out during the pandemic. Created quarterback Trip McNeely, who ended up winning several Heismans at Auburn.
nice.
But yeah, that was fun. That was just a fun change of pace.
Several Heismans.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was just so much you could do with this game. Like in terms of dynasty mode, you could be a coordinator. Like you can literally go play at any school you want, and I think that's what makes it so exciting. And again, one of my favorite things was always coming up with the storylines. You know, like, oh man, my cornerback gets hurt, my freshman's coming, oh, and he gets a pick six, right? Like, you know, you create storylines for a lot of these guys, and it's also going to be really fun just to play with friends. And I think so many people, especially our age, are going to be gaming and playing this because why not? And I'm also very curious to see, and we'll talk more about this when we go down to the ACC kickoff in Charlotte. But like, I'm interested to see how many like players, like college football players now, are gonna want lose sleep playing this game because they enjoy it so much.
They're college students. Of course they are. If they're in the game too,
Yeah, that's what I
They're
mean.
going to be hyper focused on that thing. I mean, you hear about coaches talk about like, man, we had to talk to these guys when the new Call of Duty came out. Like, you can't play this until like 6 a.m. and come to practice after that. You need to be focused on this thing. I think the college football game is going to be like that.
Yeah.
And it's a bragging rights thing. I mean, you see the way these guys talk about like, oh, I'm the best 2K player on the team, or I'm the best Madden player. Like, I think college football is going to be like that. So, yeah, just very much looking forward to this game. 1 month to go.
Yeah. Game releases. The early release is July 16th. Are you guys getting it early?
Yes.
Are you guys waiting?
I'm going to be on vacation at that point. So
Okay.
I'm going to be on
not
vacation, and I'm getting it early.
I'm going to get it early because the Salem Red Sox decide right on the 19th. We're coming back in town for a 2-week stretch. So I'm going to have baseball every day for 12 out of 13 days.
I'm sure you'll find time to play.
Oh, I'll definitely find time to play, but to have that 3-day window before with nothing to do is gonna be nice.
See, it's a tough sell. We're like at the Outer Banks, be like, you guys go to the beach. I'm gonna download this game and play it for a little while. I'll see you in a bit. I don't think that's gonna fly too much.
I'll be at the Outer Banks too, but my mom told me I could bring it. So I'll
David, you are a grown man. You can make that decision for yourself.
But you know what I mean? It'll be like everybody's going to bed at like 9 o'clock and I'll be staying up until like
that's a good point.
1 in the morning.
Yes, that's a good point. I am the one who stays up late.
I'll be staying up.
Trips,
I'll be staying up until like 2 or 3 in the morning, and then I'll just take a nap on the beach. The next
might
day.
make me reconsider my decision about this. I don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say nothing. The PlayStation comes on when the sun goes down. That's kind of the motto.
Yeah.
So 16th for the early, 19th for the normal. You get a bunch of stuff. It's all Ultimate Team stuff, which I could care less about if you get the early one. I don't care about the Ultimate Team. I just want to play
Dynasty.
Yes.
Dynasty.
Who's the first team you're going to start a Dynasty with?
I don't know. Maybe like Bowling Green.
The Fighting Lefties?
Yeah, the Fighting Lefflers.
The former Fighting Dino Babers.
That's right. Cradle of coaches there. Urban Meyer, Dino Babers, Scott Leffler. Man, all sorts of coaches come out of that place.
I would not. I was going to ask you who you're going to do your first Dynasty with, but I'm not going to ask.
It won't be the team you think.
Okay.
I'm with Andy. You can't.
Are you going to start like Buffalo, and then you're like going to aspire to get up to Syracuse?
I think Buffalo would be a great. You know, Andy, you're onto something. I did JMU because again, like the ties in state here, plus JMU is very fresh into the FBS. I think Buffalo would be great because they stunk last year. I think they won like 4 games.
Go do like Rice.
And a dude I went to high school with is the
Tulsa,
starting running back at Buffalo.
You got to pick a team that kind of has like cool uniforms. Like, I guess that's the drawback of Bowling Green is like brown and orange. Those are your uniforms. Like
uniforms are key. Uniforms are key. But work your way up and
it's got to be a good Sun Belt team that you could take. Like a down on his luck Sun Belt
Georgia
team.
State.
Coastal Carolina has some pretty good uniforms.
They do, but they're
pretty good.
sort of good.
Pretty good. Yeah. Nick, what?
Georgia Southern.
Nick, team you're gonna rebuild?
I'd go Coastal because of the field.
He said Coastal because of the field.
That field will give me a headache.
Yeah, that's true.
It's
not
Aqua.
man enough to play at Boise State.
No, that's too much. I like a good traditional.
Do we know who the worst team last year was in the country?
Sam Houston State.
Oh, San Jose
They're finding
State
Brad
could be
Cornelson's.
Yeah, that could be an interesting one.
Go rebuild Sam Houston State because you get to recruit the in-state kids in Texas.
True. I think Arizona State would be fun. Like if you did want to start with a Power 5, they're like hot dog water. They stink. Duke stinks. But like Arizona State's got cool uniforms, cool history.
Duke won 8 or 9 games.
Yeah, new coaching staff and a fire sale of their players. They're gonna stink.
I mean, I would say
they do got that quarterback from Texas.
You could be like BC or
BC, Arizona State. Like there's some because Arizona's gonna be good now.
I think one of the most interesting things is going to be the playoff.
Yes, 12-team playoffs is awesome.
Because if you can modify, you could. I hope you can modify. You used to be able to modify the BCS structure and who gets in who gets into the bowls. If you can modify like the auto bid structure into like no auto bids, just 12-team massacre playoff.
That would be awesome.
It's gonna be fun.
That would be some chaos for sure. All right, looking forward to it, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. Episode 363 of the Tech Sideline Podcast. For Nick Brown, Andy Bitter, David Cunningham, I'm Giovanni Heater. We'll see you next time.